Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Art of Being a Woman. I'm your host, Courtney, and today we are discussing the art of trusting yourself to take risks. When I think about taking a risk, I always think about starting this podcast and starting to write on Instagram because those were things that I started without knowing how it would play out, without knowing how it would change me if I was capable of doing it at all or following through on what I had intended to do. And honestly, because of all that doubt and all those questions that I've had regarding taking that risk, I didn't take my passions and what was exciting to me seriously for a long time. I allowed my doubt and I allowed my fear to convince me that it wasn't safe to take a risk on myself and to trust myself in the unknown. That is truly what it is, because as long as you trust yourself to handle the outcome of the risk that you're taking, and as long as you allow yourself to take action without knowing exactly how things will play out, then there is nothing getting in your way of taking a risk, taking a leap of faith on yourself, and taking action, getting started. This doesn't have to be about pursuing your dreams. It can be with starting a new habit in your life or a new lifestyle. If the thought of trying something new has your attention and you keep thinking about it, those are things we shouldn't take lightly. Those are opportunities for us to follow our excitement and see it all the way through, see how far we can take it. I'm going to get into 4 steps that I wrote on my Instagram account and on Threads that helps unpack this topic a little bit more, so that when you are experiencing a moment in your life where you have the opportunity to make a choice and to trust the unknown and do something you've never done before, perhaps do something that no one around you has ever done before, you will feel more confident in the decision that you make. Understand that fear and hesitation will show up. It's inevitable, because anytime we do something we haven't done before, our brain will definitely get worried, because our brain really just compares the present moment to the past constantly. And so, because we're doing something we've never done before and it cannot predict the outcome, it will assume that the situation is not safe. But that's not true. It's just that your brain cannot help you in this situation because it can't tell you how things are going to play out. I used to allow the fear of the unknown and not being able to foreshadow the future to hold me back in life. If I couldn't predict how the choices in my life would affect me in the long term, I just assumed it wasn't smart. I thought that smart people make very calculated decisions all the time. But that's honestly backwards. The smartest people are willing to be beginners over and over again. That's how they truly become so wise. It's not because they stayed within their comfort zone, it's because they stepped outside of it, and they stepped outside of their comfort zone enough to familiarize themselves with it. That's why there's so many amazing motivational speakers and successful business entrepreneurs that talk about taking risks and stepping outside of their comfort zone, because they only learned through taking repeated action. They have taken multiple risks, and that doesn't mean that every risk that they took was successful, but it taught them the power of taking risks, and it taught them the power of trusting themselves regardless of how things play out. We can't build self-trust by reading about it. We can't build self-trust by hoping and praying for it to. It's not a feeling that just arrives out of nowhere when we reach a certain age. It's something that we have to create through the action that we take. Therefore, the action that we need to take is taking risks. That is how we build self-trust, not through only trusting ourselves with things that are predictable, easy, and comfortable, but by doing things that have no guarantee of success and making a conscious decision that, you know what, even if I don't accomplish my ultimate goal from taking a leap of faith and taking a risk, at least I learned, at least I tried, and at least I went after something that excited me. When we do that, we honor our excitement more in life, and we're less afraid to step outside of our comfort zone and do things that we wouldn't have usually done before. That is what ends up leading to our success. The 4 steps that we're going to cover are the following. 1, notice what's trying to hold you back. 2, decide who you want to be in the moment. 3, take the leap before you feel ready. And 4, back yourself through every possibility. Let's get into step 1. We have notice what's trying to hold you back. There's going to be moments in life when we have to make a decision. We can choose to do what we've always done, even if it's not what we truly want to do. We just know that it's safe and easy. Or we can make the hard decision and do something scary. Do something that triggers our fears, something that we cannot predict. Whenever we're met with that choice in life, it's always best to choose what's hardest to do and what feels the most uncomfortable and the most painful. And that sounds absurd, because why would we want to cause ourselves more pain, more discomfort, and more inner turmoil? But the truth is, the more that we choose the harder path and we do what's more challenging, the more we break through our own limiting beliefs and our own limited mindset. The more that we choose to face our fears and make the scarier choice in life, the more we realize that fear is not real. That doesn't mean that there isn't danger in the world and that we don't have to protect ourselves. What I mean is, there's a lot of fear that goes on within each and every one of us that is not based in reality. It's based on an assumption of how the future is going to play out, which is also called anxiety. When we allow our mind to start convincing us that we shouldn't take one step in a new direction because there's a chance that things will fall apart, we're allowing that fear to not even allow us to take action, to not even move. The best thing you can do for yourself in this circumstance is to question your fear. Ask yourself why exactly that fear is so scary. There is someone in the world that has overcome this fear that we're experiencing. And when we get to the root of our fear and why we're so scared of it actually coming true, we have to tell ourselves that even if the fear comes true, we will be fine. I touched on this a little bit in a different podcast episode, The Art of Transforming Your Fear into Power. And I spoke about how I had a fear of public speaking. And when I first started podcasting, it was definitely a challenge. Even convincing myself to buy a microphone was a challenge, because my fear convinced me that it was unsafe to speak on a public platform. The more I focused on taking one step forward instead of pre-planning my next 50 steps, the easier it became to face my fear. I had to really fight my fear by proving it wrong. And we can only do that by doing exactly what it tells us not to do. I believe that when our lives are truly in danger and there's really a threat to our survival, there isn't any hesitation in terms of how we protect ourselves. It becomes instinctual. So when our mind is creating this fear and there isn't any real external threat, that's when you know that it's not your intuition trying to protect you. It's the ego trying to prevent you from accessing your intuition that's hidden behind your fears. Step 2, decide who you want to be in the moment. Something that really helps me take risks in my life is, instead of focusing on the version of me that I am right now, that's afraid, that's worried, that things won't play out the way that I want them to play out, I decide to focus on the version of myself that actually faces my fear, that actually takes the risk, and what about her mindset is different from mine. And this can be hard to do because we are not yet that version of ourselves, but this is when you can use ChatGPT. You can truly ask it, how does someone that is extremely confident in this area of life, or someone that is confident in taking risks in general, how do they act? How do they carry themselves? What's their mentality? When you allow yourself to envision that version of yourself, it's like trying on a new outfit. You'll realize that things will feel a lot clearer to you, and your choices will feel more simple, because many times it's not that we don't want to take a risk. It's because we don't trust ourselves. We doubt that we will be able to handle the long-term consequences of our actions. So we convince ourselves that now is not a good time. So why not just imagine that we're the version of ourselves that decides this is the perfect time? And what about that version of ourselves makes it the perfect time to take a risk? The truth is, there is no such thing as feeling ready or being ready or the time is right. Yes, sometimes in life we get this boost of confidence and motivation, but it never lasts. And we're going to get to a point when motivation and confidence are not going to be the things that push us forward anymore. This is why having that vision of how you want to show up when you are taking risks is so important. It will allow you to get into that desired mindset rather than the mindset that you're in currently that's holding you back and convincing you to not trust yourself. Our power truly comes from conscious choices that we make. Even when it's hard, even when we're afraid, we still get to choose who we want to be. And when we realize that and we choose to trust ourselves and take that risk, we instantly shift into that version of ourselves that is ready, that is capable, that is confident. It's truly a decision that we make. Confident people don't wait for their inner dialogue to tell them that they're confident. They make a decision. We must be willing to let go of the version of ourselves that clings to fear to avoid taking action so that we can step into who we really want to be and who we're meant to be. A tip for this step is to ask yourself, if you were the most confident version of yourself, what would your life look like? What would you do? What would you stop avoiding because you were so confident? And you'd be surprised what your brain will tell you. Step 3, take the leap before you feel ready. This is something that so many mindset coaches talk about. So many motivational speakers, so many entrepreneurs talk about this. Courage and bravery. It's not about not being scared. It's not about not being afraid. All of those things will be present when you take a risk, when you decide to trust yourself and do something new. The courage and the bravery really comes from taking that leap before you feel confident. I was just listening to a Layla Harmozy video. I love her and I recommend her to anyone that listens to this podcast because she just has so much wisdom that she shares freely. In the video that I watched, she basically said very simply, confidence comes from action. And it's true. It doesn't come from achieving milestones. It doesn't come from success, because there are people that achieve success and there are people that achieve different milestones in life, but they're not confident, because confidence comes from taking action, and not just any action, but action that we feel inspired to take. If we're just doing things because the people around us tell us to do them, or it just seems like the right thing to do and it's the path that everyone's following, that's not going to lead to confidence, because we're choosing out of fear in those moments. Fear of doing something different and doing something unpredictable. It's truly when we take action towards something that we haven't done before that will lead to true confidence. Layla also mentioned that confidence is like a muscle, and I never heard that before. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that makes perfect sense. Because just like our muscles, if we don't continue to work them out, they're going to get smaller. The same thing goes with our confidence. If we take one risk in life, we're going to feel that boost of confidence. We're going to feel amazing. But then over time it fades, especially if we don't keep taking those risks and we don't keep trusting ourselves to try new things. So we'll end up back at square one, where we're afraid to do new things. We will never feel fully ready. We just get to a point where we decide to be brave enough to begin. It's never about being certain that you're going to achieve a certain outcome. It's about having a strong willingness to try and be willing to learn if things don't work out the way we would have hoped. I believe many times in life, we will take a risk on something, And the first time we do it, it's not that great. Not because it's not meant for us, but because we just started and we're a beginner. But when we take that repeated action and we commit to building a skill and we commit to whatever it is that we're passionate about going after, that will lead to us building that muscle of confidence. And from that place, we will achieve a more long-lasting success in our life and more internal fulfillment. Because if we took a risk on something and on the first try it worked, which that happens too for some people and in some instances. But again, that's like having one great workout and then never going to the gym again. You feel great, but it's short term, and we want that long lasting fulfillment. We want the long-term success. We want the long-term benefits of our actions. If you are hesitant to take a risk because the fear of not achieving your goals keeps you stuck, just know that not achieving your goals helps you build confidence. And confidence is truly way more valuable than achieving a goal. It's something that can't be bought, and it's something that will ultimately determine how successful you are in your life. If we are not able to be confident in ourselves, it's as if we're not even on our own team. We don't even believe in ourselves, and we must always believe in ourselves. Step 4, back yourself through every possibility. One of the biggest parts of self-trust is knowing that we'll stay loyal to ourselves even if things don't go as planned, because it's never about the plan. It's always about who we become as we follow a plan, as we follow the path of something new. The fear of failure fades when we realize that we can handle any outcome. We really can. And fear is smart. It will truly try to convince us that the world will end, our lives will be over if our fears come true. But I promise you, once you decide that regardless of how things play out, you will have your own back. You will figure things out. You will realize that trying wasn't the real risk. Regret is. We don't want to look back at our lives in 50 years from now and think to ourselves, wow, if only I tried this when I was young, I could have really made it, or I could have really had a different life, a better life. We would much rather be that person in 50 years from now that said, at least I tried. And chances are, if you keep trying and you keep taking those risks in life, your future is going to be so bright because eventually you're going to achieve success. You're eventually going to become the person that achieves it because you're no longer afraid to take risks and you fully trust yourself and the decisions that you make, even when you don't have proof of the outcome. Those are the qualities of successful people. Those are the qualities of a successful mindset. The win and the goal that we have in mind when we take a risk isn't always the best result. It's truly in who we become that pays off the biggest, more than any achievement. That's why people pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to go to seminars and hear lectures from mindset coaches because they want to have that same mentality that all these successful people have. But they're never going to get it from listening to a course. It's only through applying the knowledge that you're learning, taking action, even when you're afraid, and not just once in a while, consistently until it starts to change you. I hope that you found value in this episode, and I hope that you decide to really trust yourself to take a risk. No matter how small, a risk is a risk. You just need to take one step. You just need to put one foot in front of the other. You don't have to pre-plan your next 10 steps. You don't want to be the reason why you didn't go after the life that you truly want to live. And you don't want to be the reason why you didn't become the person that you always knew you could become. Be that person that in 50 years from now has such an interesting life story to share with those around because you allowed yourself to try things, because you allowed yourself to take risks. I hope you have an amazing week. I love you all. If you liked this episode, please rate this podcast, comment your thoughts, your feelings. Until next time, bye for now.